showtime on another NIOH skill tree guide video. Today's subject of our beautiful skill tree guides, which are coming very well now, I must say. I am loving doing these videos, will be the SWITCHGLAIVE, probably NIOH's most complex weapon on the surface. However, the weapon is extremely simple when you learn how to use it. So let's get into this here. SWITCHGLAIVEs are very odd. First of all, they scale off of Constitution, Skill, and Magic. They heavily lean into Skill with a B+ normally, one of the highest. As you can see here, this is a SWITCHGLAIVE I will be using. We're leaning into Skill on this, but you can absolutely make a really good Omeo Mage build with this. As far as what weapons pair really well with a SWITCHGLAIVE as your secondary, axes are very good. Tonfas are also pretty good, but I would say Tonfas, dual swords if you lean very heavily into skill, and split staffs are actually the best. Out of those, I would probably say that split staffs are the best for pairing with a Tonfa. Even though they don't have many stats in common, only magic, with an Omeo Mage build with a split staff and a SWITCHGLAIVE, you can do some real magic. If you have a split staff and a Tonfa, you can also do some real magic, like I already said, but with a split staff and a SWITCHGLAIVE, you can basically negate your need for the Tonfa, similar to the SWITCHGLAIVE, sorry, and the split staff. So it is very, very good. Right, the combo between these three weapons is very powerful. However, I do find that pairing the SWITCHGLAIVE with the Tonfa usually leans into doing more elemental damage, but as we will see in our next video, the split staff actually does have bonuses to elemental damage. So I would use the SWITCHGLAIVE as my primary damage source, and then the split staff, the split staff is like my elemental damage applier if I'm really using magic as my primary means of damage. Because the thing is, because of how the Tonfa work and what their boosts are, you're usually not gonna really get much damage off of them because what attacks and stats they scale off of. While these two together do have one stat in common, which makes them pretty good. Also, the axes work pretty well. They only share, once again, the magic skill and the skill stat. They only share those two stats. But the axes are very good for zoning and very good for range, which we will come to find that the SWITCHGLAIVE actually does struggle with range a little bit. There's only like one specific skill which gives you any insanely good range, and it's a secret skill we'll get onto. So, let's get into our combos before we get into anything else, shall we? Here's what our combo is. So, the SWITCHGLAIVE up stance is very slow, but I find that it's the most reliable stance, surprisingly. I will say, coming into the SWITCHGLAIVE, you are going to be very confused, right? You're going to be very confused because it plays it very much like an Odachi, but an Odachi that rewards you for aggression. Because normally Odachis do not reward you for aggression at all, right? You will not get rewarded for aggression with an Odachi because, as we will see later, the SWITCHGLAIVE, unlike the Odachi, allows you to get Kai back, and it's in a sustainable way. And if you've watched my Odachi guide, you will know that Kai and Kai regeneration is incredibly important for the Odachi because it's very stingy on its Kai. While the SWITCHGLAIVE and how it plays allows you to get Kai back consistently. So let's go over the combos. The heavy combo is just 2 swipes. The medium heavy combo is 2 swipes. 1, 2. That's it. The heavy attack is just one big swing. All 3 of these swings in the heavy stance are very good for taking down yokai. Oni in particular, it will basically always aim and break their horns consistently every single time. Very consistent. It also does have some range to it because you do lunge forwards pretty far. Yeah. So it works pretty well. But you probably already noticed it, I will say, just doing standard combos with the Switchglaive is not actually suggested. The Switchglaive thrives off of its combo potential, but just doing standard combos like this without a combo ender at the end is dangerous. With a Switchglaive, you gotta be very mobile. You know, you gotta be throwing combo enders in there, switching up your stances, stuff like that. So it's not suggested that you just mash square or mash triangle. Next up, we have our rolls. It's the standard stuff. Standard dodges, nothing unusual. Next up we have, well, mid-stance. Mid-stance is actually quite reliable. You have your standard dodges in mid-stance. Mid-stance is 4 attacks, 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one will not hit the horns of yokai most of the time. The second and third will most of the time, and the fourth one definitely will. And considering how fast that comes out, that's pretty quick, right? It's not like a too quick, but it's an above average speed. You're usually going to hit them pretty hard, right? You're usually going to hit them pretty hard. And as you will soon come to find out, speed is one of the big, powerful things the Switchglaive has, right? It's one of the biggest, strongest things this weapon has. As you can see, he already went down. His horns are already broken, and he's already out of Kai. Very good. The Switchglaive kind of excels at Kai damage with heavy combos, which is important. Speaking of heavy combos, time for the heavy combo. So, the heavy combo in the mid stance is 1, 2. 2 attacks. Swipe upwards. They will mostly hit the horns of yokai, but it will be difficult to truly... Mostly. It will be difficult to get consistency on them, as you will see here. It will hit them, but it's very difficult to get them consistently hitting them. See? Very difficult. Very difficult. Very difficult. Because of where that is aiming specifically. Most horns of most yokai are low. Now, I have seen it break them before, but it's very difficult to do, and you do sometimes have to be at a certain angle. See, that was actually a headshot on him. So it can hit their horns, it's just unlikely. Next up is the low stance. The low stance has, I believe, 7 attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? About 8. About 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's 8 button presses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 button presses to its medium combo. Its medium combo is very quick and has amazing combo potential. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Return to stance. Pretty good combo potential. The low stance in general also has its normal dodges, but low stance in general is very powerful for the Switchglaive. I would say low and high stance are pretty good for it. And this is the heavy combo. 1, 2, 3. That's 4 attacks. He swipes twice there on the first attack. It's hard to tell, but there is actually 2 hitboxes there, I do believe. Or maybe there was only 1. Let's check. Ah, there is only 1. Okay, I was mistaken. There's 3 hitboxes there in the total combo. First attack actually does exceedingly more damage than the second one. And the third attack seems to do slightly, well, I would say about 40% more damage than the first attack. And the second attack seems to do about 40% less damage than the first attack. I was standing behind him, so it did more damage if you were wondering why 900 popped up. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Alright, now we go over the stances and the abilities of the Switchglaive while in their stances. I will warn you, the Switchglaive doesn't have very many Omni skills. When I say Omni skills, I mean skills that can be put into any stance and be used. So, Omni skills are stuff like... Omni skills and other weapons are stuff like this. Reverse impact. See how it doesn't have a stance requirement? The dude in the background is just facing to the right. The Switchglaive doesn't have many of those. In fact, I believe it only has about 5. out of all of its skills. Let's go over them. First off, we actually have something very unique. The fluxes. I personally use Wildfire Flux because you can build up damage very quickly, but as you see there, unleash a devastating attack. What this is this uses these two, the Tempest Flux and the Wildfire Flux, use these things down here, the Switch Stance abilities. Switch Stance Retribution, Edge, and Blade. Whenever you switch them, you get a damage increase equal to how many times you switched it, up to 5. So allow me to demonstrate. See that little buff I just got? It lasts for a long time in the early. You can go up to 5. Now it's at 2. See, it's going down faster now. 3. 4. Whoop, he interrupted me. 5. Once you're at 5 like this, the buff will go away incredibly quickly, but you can hold square to do a devastating attack that does usually about 5,000 damage with a high-end Switchglaive. Keep in mind, this is a +6 Divine Switchglaive, +6 Sentient Yokai weapon with 1,693 damage. So 5,000 damage, give or take, is a lot. It is a lot of damage, and that is a very devastating attack. It also buffs itself, unlike Tempest, because you will do less damage with Tempest because you're getting a buff. I personally will use Wildfire, although it's very good either way. And you can keep in mind, you can switch through these really quick, see? You can work that attack into the combo finisher. It is kind of difficult to use. Well, the thing is, like, for advanced combos you'll see in the game, the Switchglaive is really powerful. I think the Switchglaive is probably one of the better weapons in the entire game. It's just very difficult for newer players to use, so you're usually only going to use it once you're an experienced player already. But I would say it's one of the best weapons in the entire game. That is what the mastery skills do for the Switchglaive. They both do the same thing. One increases, attack power, the other one reduces Kai consumption. That's it. They're no different from each other than those specific things. Something I want to mention about these real quick, though, that can be important, because they allow you to switch stances, you might, with your Switchglaive setup, want to have the same combo ender on every stance if you can, so you have consistency, because it'll be very difficult to keep track of your combos if you do something like that. Next up is the high stance stuff. First of all, we have Merciful Retribution. This is not quite a grapple, but it's a triangle hold maneuver in the high stance only, which we will show off here against a human, which allows you to kind of either knock them away. It can be cancelled into that. It can be cancelled into a heavy attack. Either knock them away or kind of pull them towards you. It's very hard to do because the timing is very strange. They have to get hit by that second attack. See, that second attack can pull them in, but usually they're just going to get hit by the first one, and then they'll get pushed away by the first one. But that second attack does do good damage, so it's pretty good damage for how quickly it comes out after the first attack. Although it's slow overall, I wouldn't suggest picking it up unless you want the stuff behind it, which is very important. I would suggest you pick it up specifically for Cyclone, because Cyclone is very good, very good. I suggest you pick up Cyclone no matter what. So, next up is Divine Retribution. Divine Retribution is a very awkward to use skill. If you use it while there's no one standing in front of you, you're just kind of stunned and you can't do anything. You have to get out of that animation. Keep in mind, as I'm doing this, I am tapping the roll button. You have to wait till he kind of jerks it out of the ground a little bit. But if you actually hit an enemy with it, which is somewhat difficult to do, you'll go over them, and you can follow it up with something like Cyclone. Or maybe a stance switch. It's up to you what you do there. But it's an alright skill. It does somewhat good damage, about 3,000 each time. and it's kind of difficult to combo off of, but an experienced player can use it. Next up, we have Empty Retribution. That's something I do want to say about Empty Retribution, is that it is difficult to use against certain enemies, specifically grounded enemies. It is somewhat difficult to use against, so keep that in mind as we go to Empty Retribution. This is a series of quick spins that hit your opponent. I believe, yeah, you just hit the button once, hold it, and your character will hold the attack naturally. Enemies that are on the ground have a hard time being hit by this, as you saw there. When he was crouched and he was trying to get up, I missed him with 2 of my attacks. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Next up, we have Mortal Retribution. This is a combo ender for the high stance in particular. I wouldn't personally pick this one up because you need to for these 2 skills up here. For these 2 skills, for this, which is very important, and this, you need to pick this up. But then again, it's not that important, so you can kind of skip on these if you want. But what Mortal Retribution does, it is a combo ender for the high stance that is somewhat difficult to use. So, it's a medium attack combo ender that is 2 slices. It's very, very slow, and it doesn't actually give you hyper armor. So you're just kind of standing there and hoping your enemy takes it. It does good Kai damage, as you saw there. Whoop. Yeah, it does good Kai damage, but that's actually about it. That was really cool, but that's actually about it. It doesn't actually do much else because, well, it's so slow. It will usually catch the enemy off guard. For your sakes, I hope it does always catch the enemy off guard if you're using it. The only real reason you would get this is if you want to use it for a combo you have in mind, or you just want what's past it, which is important. But it's up to you. It is up to you. After that, we have Forced Retribution. Or, as I usually call it, the Fused Retribution. This is a triangle hold maneuver where you hold triangle and you swipe twice really quick. This can be partially charged. It does a lot of damage and a lot of Kai damage. Surprisingly, like I said before, the Switchglaive, you don't get hyper armor during it as well, which sucks. The Switchglaive actually has good Kai damage, which makes it very rare because it's one of the only weapons in the entire game that has a good attack pattern and high Kai damage. The only weapon that has higher Kai damage than it is usually either a cannon or a club, if you use your, skills properly. The axes can also have higher Kai damage, but it's very difficult to do with the axes. Next up is Infinite Retribution and Infinite Retribution 2. They're triangle guard strikes. Oh, we already have it equipped. Perfect. So you spin the blade around you. Whoop, you spin the blade around you while holding it. You can keep going for as long as you like. And then the second one, Infinite Retribution 2. Whoop. Thing. Infinite Retribution 2 allows you to press square and strike twice. This is okay. It's alright. No joke, it's actually pretty okay. The square maneuver, when used properly, can get you some good free damage on an opponent that may be just out of your reach after you use it. Say they back up or they get hit out of it like that. It can be pretty good. It can be pretty good. I suggest you pick it up if you just want something to put on your triangle. Just keep in mind, I will say, the only other thing which goes there in high stance is Arc of Chaos, which is a end game secret skill that you get from the last DLC, from the third DLC. So I wouldn't suggest picking picking Edge of Chaos as your primary ability, your primary thing, unless you want to use it. I wouldn't suggest picking it up. But next up is what we've seen before, Celestial Retribution. An opponent out of Kai. It's basically a grapple maneuver. Instead of pressing triangle, you press square. You press square. Whoop. So an opponent that is out of Kai will be hit extra hard. Whoop. No. They'll be launched in the air for about 3,000 or so damage. About 3,000 damage. That also puts them a good distance away from you. Unlike the standard grapple attack. 1, 2. Unlike the standard grapple attack, which actually does move you behind them a little bit. But they're just going to get up and recover immediately. So this is actually pretty good. This is pretty good. You have to pick it up for this as well. So I would pick it up. I would pick it up. That's Arc of Chaos there. We'll get to that in a second. That's the secret skill. One of them. Next up, we get to the mid-stance stuff. As you can probably see already, they are segregated in between each other really hard. Everything in the high stance is for high stance. Everything in the mid stance is either for mid stance and high stance, which there's only 2. Cyclone. Or everything is just for the mid stance. And then everything in the low stance is either low stance or that's it, just low stance. They're very segregated, which is sad. But a lot of them have natural combo potential between their abilities that actually makes a lot of sense and allows you to combo despite them being so segregated. So, starting with Mind's Edge. It's a combo ender. It is a combo ender specifically for the mid stance. It's just a little bap. You bap them with the end. Yeah, bap them with the end. Oh, bap. This does really good Kai damage, as you would think, as is the point of it. Bap. It also comes out very fast. As you can see, Celestial Retribution is unique in its ability because it can only be done in high stance. Whoop! There we go. It doesn't do very much damage. It does about 60% less damage than a standard strike, but it is pretty good just for throwing a little bit in there. I wouldn't pick it up, but it's up to you. Next up is, well, Blinding Edge. Square maneuver, swipe in, swipe up, swipe in, swipe up, swipe in, swipe up, swipe in. It's okay. It's very good. It's very good starting out, especially with a SWITCHGLAIVE. Very good for newer players because it's very simple. It does a lot of damage. Kai damage is kind of lacking though, as you can see. It's not very good. He can kind of just block it. But where it shines is when you're behind an opponent. As you can see. His damage is boosted. It's very quick. Those 2 attacks come out pretty quick once he scrapes the ground hard enough to get the attack started. So it can be used pretty well. You also need to pick this up to get this, which is one of the only 2 counterattacks in the game. So yeah. Speaking of, we have our first secret skill here, which is Fleeting Edge. Do we have it equipped? Yes. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks. You spin around the enemy. It's similar to stuff the sword has. 1, 2, 3, 4. But thanks to the reach of the weapon, you're always going to hit. I don't think there's been a single time. 2, 3, 4. I don't think there's been a single time I've used that on an enemy and not one of the attacks actually landed. Actually, didn't land, sorry. So, one of the attacks actually didn't land. Usually as well, I find that final attack, because of how much momentum you get through the entire thing and how much ground you cover, that final slam attack is almost always going to hit. There have been very few times I've been in combat, I've done this move, and that attack doesn't hit, other than right there because he was already dead. So Fleeting Edge is very good. I'd suggest you pick it up. You can actually pick it up pretty early in game too, because of where it is found. I will go over later. Next up is Tranquil Edge. Hold on, let me stretch real quick. Tranquil Edge is not very good. I wouldn't suggest picking it up. It's kind of a waste of a skill point, right? Mainly because there's better options. Also, you're wielding a Switchglaive. Sure, it's your only other option for... It's only your other option for a guard button press or, you know, square. I get it. There's not exactly a whole lot of competition. It does good Kai damage as well. And you will guard during the attack's animation. See? But I feel like you're missing the point of a Switchglaive if you use something like this. Switchglaives are naturally very aggressive weapons. They are the most absurdly aggressive weapon in the entire game, next to maybe the Odachi and the Tonfa. And to some extent the Fists, but that's it. I wouldn't use this, I wouldn't pick it up. This is what I would use instead. It's a triangle button press, and triangle usually takes dominance over square. But your only other option is something like Windswept, which is another secret skill, which I wouldn't use. This is actually quite good. It lasts for a very long time. And it gets you behind the opponent, unlike this, which doesn't usually. Lasts for a very long time, yet I fuck it up anyways. There we go. Gets you behind the opponent pretty consistently. And not only that, in a big fight with multiple people, just hitting this once because you're pretty much immune to damage throughout the entire duration can get you out of trouble. I say can if used properly, though. You need to use it well. Most people do not use this weapon very well at all, I find. Although it is one of the better weapons in the entire game. And that is not Tranquil, sorry. That is this right here. So, something I do want to say about this real quick. That will hit multiple opponents, that big swipe, so keep that in mind. Next up is Cyclone and Cyclone 2. These are the best combo enders in the entire game. They even have different animations based on what stance you're using it in. I'll go over the high stance animation, because I think it's the best one. Cyclone is very simple. It's a medium attack combo ender. Whoop! It just spins around and hits 4 times. Cyclone 2 is something similar. You have to press it at the right time near the end of the spin, just as he's coming around for his final spin. It slams the scythe on the ground. This does really good Kai damage. In fact, it's the best combo ender in the game. Because it can do that. It's a grapple attack as well. And it has good damage. With this combo ender by itself, you could probably kill Otakimaru. In fact, I have. How I grinded some of these skills was fighting Otakimaru, because there's a mission where you have to fight him and the beautiful woman that drops Edge of Chaos, or Arc of Chaos. So, yeah, it's a really good skill. Cyclone is very powerful. I'd suggest you pick it up. It's very good for a combo ender, and you can switch stances into and out of it. So, because of, you know, the abilities naturally of this weapon. Oh. 1, and then 2, 3 Kai balls. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. You can switch stance it into or out of it very quickly with a quick Kai pulse, so it's pretty good. After Cyclone is, well, the low stance. Transient Blade. It's a combo ender. For our little thing here. It's a combo ender which does good Kai damage. It's a combo ender for the low stance, the medium attacks on the low stance, medium combo on the low stance. 1, 2, 3. He's blocking. Give it a sec. 1, 2, 3. Now you want to fucking block. 1, 2. There you go. it does give you some distance, and it does hit them, which allows status effects to be applied pretty fast because it hits them twice. But there's better options. You do need to pick this up or something else, I do believe. But I wouldn't use it. Yeah, you need to pick this up for everything else, but I wouldn't use it. Instead, I would use this bad boy. This, well, does leave you vulnerable when first being used. Whoopsies. Well, it does leave you vulnerable when you're first used. Kibosh Kicker. Sounds good. It's pretty powerful. It does very... Sorry about if you can hear the dog in the background. It does very good Kai damage and slams the blade down after its use. And as you saw there, if you break their Kai with the attack, or their Kai is already broken, you'll grab them and throw them to the ground, placing you in the potential area to get behind them, which is good. Very good. Beautiful, as you can see. You can kind of just spam this. The combo enders on the SWITCHGLAIVE are so powerful, you can very easily spam them. Very strong. Pick it up. It's very good. Very good combo ender. Next up is Skyward Blade. We already have this equipped. We do! This is a standard, very heavy attack for the low stance. It does a lot of Kai damage, but as you can see there, if you knock the wind out of them and do all of their Kai in one attack, with this attack, but in particular, specifically, it will knock them to the ground and allow you to get a final blow on them and potentially even behind them. So, pick it up. It does good Kai damage and you can combo out of it, I do believe. Yeah, you can kind of combo out of it. Yeah, you can switch out of it as well. So yeah, pick it up. It's pretty good. Alright, after Skyward Blade is this. It's a very unique one. So Calamitous Blade is unique in its abilities. It's a charge attack, technically. It has the properties of a charge attack. But as you can see, I'm not doing the jump at the end. You actually have to hit an enemy to do the jump, I do believe. Yeah. It's very quick, and as you saw there, it always jumps even if you miss. Even if you, like, not miss, but it always jumps even if you hit their block, which is very powerful, because that's mobility on a blocking opponent, which you're not always going to get in the game. You're not always going to get that. Free mobility on a blocking opponent. Usually when an opponent blocks, it stops all your mobility abilities, which is very powerful. I would suggest that, especially because you can technically combo out of it. It's pretty good. Next up is one of the strangest abilities in the game that I can't actually show off to you too well. It's called Whirling Blade. So, I can't show this off to you too well. Well, I'll explain its uses and what it does. You stand right here. It takes Kai very slowly. You spin the SWITCHGLAIVE on your hand, and any projectile that is fired at you while you were using it, I'll try and do it with a ninja, but it might not work, is sent right back at the person who did it. Melee attacks are not included. It does do about, what, 98% less damage? Do that bomb thing again. I want to see if it'll deflect a bomb. Yeah, and it also has a very short range to it. So, yeah, it does deflect bombs as well. It's pretty much any projectile that's not too big. I'm guessing it probably doesn't deflect boss projectiles, so don't count on it deflecting laser beams from that giant castle. But other than that, It ain't useful. It's good in a pinch if you got it on, but Skyward Blade is just better for Kai damage, so I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't pick it up. Next up is Lightning Blade. This is also our final one, I believe, right next to our... Yeah, right next to our holds and our guard's abilities. This is a guard ability. This is a guard parry, specifically, that does a lot of good damage and launches you into the air. Oh, is it Lightning Blade? Chidori. 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 As you can see, it doesn't do it normally. You actually do need to hit the attack itself. Ooh. Alright, it's very funny to do that. I will do about 98% less damage. This right here, if it hits. So, it's very quick. It's not too easy to hit. Not only is it not too easy to hit, it's also not too useful to hit either, as you'll see. Does somewhat good Kai damage and lets you get a finishing blow if you break their Kai. It also can stagger them pretty consistently, and if you hit it on a yokai, it might break their horns, but it's very difficult to hit something like this on a yokai. See? Very difficult to do. Especially because yokai have a lot more options, like grab attacks, that other things do not have. Because yokai are very strong in that regard, because they have more options than a human does. Very difficult to hit. See, I would suggest just sticking to the aggressiveness of the other attacks and abilities. Also, you do, as you see me doing there occasionally, you do crouch down a little bit. He is not wanting to use that sword of his. There we go. You do crouch down a little bit, so you will get a little bit of value from that, because you do crouch down. You can kind of dodge with it, because some enemies will just go around you. Yeah, see how difficult it is? I don't even think it might not actually be possible. Yokai might just blow straight through it. Let me check with one of the others, because I've never actually tested it against large yokai before. I will say most counterattacks don't work on yokai, so most of the time don't try it in combat. But let me check if it'll work on this guy. This is a small yokai. So far, no. Yeah, it doesn't work, as you saw there. Unless the timing is just really strict for no reason. Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay. Only on humanoids. Yokai are kind of immune to a lot of counterattacks like that. Very hard to manipulate them in battle thanks to just how much privilege they get from their moveset. It's kind of insane to say, but it is true. They get so much privilege from their moveset, it's so difficult to do anything. These are the stance switches we talked about before. The best one is the up stance switch into medium, and the mid stance switch into high. Alright, now we have the Path of 3 and Thin Air, then we get on to some of the secret skills, as well as the buff itself. Once we get to this buff, I do want to explain something very powerful about the Switchglaive that you probably want to know. Let me stretch real quick. So, Path of 3. Don't we have this on? Yes, we do. You go through each of the switches. You go through each of the blades on the path, and you can switch directly afterwards while you're doing it to whatever you want. It's very good for getting like edge building up, like edge build for your edge build. It's just called a ninja. But it's very good for switching up your edges and your stances while you're doing it. It's kind of risky though, because it is pretty slow, but in exchange for its slowness, it's a lot of good damage. So I would suggest it if you just want good damage. It's not as powerful as one of the other ones, though. We'll come across in a second. Keep in mind, it is also like... That's not the right one. It is also like a hold maneuver, and one of the secret skills is a hold maneuver, so it's kind of overshadowed by that a little bit. Just a little bit. So, yeah. 3-path is okay. You do need it, sadly, to pick up a lot of important stuff, like all the switches. But I wouldn't use it. Thin air is your next one. Is this on? No. Thin air is your next one. This is a draw attack which allows you to switch in the middle of it for different effects. That's what it looks like in standard. It's kind of just like a stab, basically. That's the low variant. And that's the high variant. And that'll end you in whatever stance you pick while you're using it. So if I pick high, I end in high. If I pick low, I end in low. If I don't touch anything, I end in mid. Allows you to control your stances a bit better. So it's pretty good. Let's go all the way. Does the password go from the bottom? Yes. Next up is the buff. Okay. I want to tell you something about the Switchglaive that is very important. The Switchglaive, especially with the weapon I currently have, is abnormally good at building Amita for your yokai abilities. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of the best weapons for doing this, if not the best. It is one of the best weapons for using yokai abilities for, which is funny considering it's used by yokai hunters. What this buff does is it allows you to build up your Amita faster in exchange for sustainability. As you can see there, in exchange you will receive more Kai damage. You can mitigate that. So it's basically free Amita charge. You can only equip it. You can only equip them one at a time. You can either equip Thin Air or this. Rakashisa. And that's it. Next up is the 2 final secret skills. This is Arc of Chaos. This is weird. It's a good skill. It's your only zoning skill you got, so you might as well use it if you have it. But what this does is you throw the thing forwards and it comes back to you, hitting the enemy twice. The second attack will apply any of your sneak attack damage, specifically your back attack damage. Hits them once, they can dodge through it, keep in mind. It can hit them more than once if they're at that perfect range where you're throwing it, which is very difficult to get them at. And the attack itself, when it comes back to you, will do your damage. Your back attack damage, your sneak attack damage. Whoop. There we go. Your sneak attack damage there. It will do it. So, keep that in mind. Next up is Windswept, the final secret ability. Pretty simple. Windswept, we saw it a little bit earlier, is a triangle hold maneuver on your mid stance. It's just pretty simple. It's a different combo. Swings the weapon a few times. You do get a little bit of hyper armor, but it's not enough to actually do anything with, because you will pretty much always be knocked out of it if you get hit. Just smaller attacks will glance off of you. The best thing about this is the range it gives you. The range this thing gives you is insane. Alright. That's it for the Switchglaive skill tree. As far as it goes for the buffs, I would pick up Passage to the Afterlife for specifically to combo with, Cyclone. And Restless is always good. And you know what? Because of how the Switchglaive works, it is surprising. It is surprising that Shadow Strike isn't actually the best for the Switchglaive. unless you want to dedicate yourself to getting behind them. With the exception of using Arc of Chaos, there's not many attacks which solely hit behind the enemy with multiple attacks. Usually there's a lot of attacks that get behind the enemy and then do one attack. You gotta rely on yourself to get behind him a lot of the time. Alright, we're gonna get out of here, and I'll show you my optimal sort of Switchglaive skill tree, and then I will show you where the secret skills are. Do be wary, because some of these secret skills are a little bit difficult to get a hold of. Specifically, Arc of Chaos is very annoying. So, go to the dojo, reset skills. We pick Switchglaive. Split Staff is the next one up. Okay. So, this is my optimal skill tree. Getting Wildfire is very important, and I would pick it up. You have to pick up these. Obviously, you want to pick these up. You want to pick up Cyclone, which does take a lot. You don't really need this, or this, or this, so I'd skip on those. You'll want this, as well as this. You could use this if you wanted to. I wouldn't though. Low stance is very offensive anyways. You do need to buy this to get this, which we will be using. You want this. Very good. It's very powerful if you don't have Arc of Chaos, which you probably will not. That is very good for getting behind them. You do need to buy that for these, but we won't be getting those. You want to buy a Restless. You want to buy a Shadow Strike, because it's always good even with this. And then Passage to the Afterlife and Cornered Boar can be pretty good, especially because you already, if you're following this exactly, you already have Cornered Tiger, which can be good, but you're not going to be a ninja, so you won't be using any of the low health stuff unless you already have Last Gambit and you just want to use it. Indomitable Spirit can be okay. Weapon Mastery is useless, so I wouldn't pick it up. So from there, I would either go Passage to the Afterlife 3. And with your last 5, you could pick up some more combo potential. But you pretty much got all you need. So I would go with... hard to say, actually. I would probably go with Final Blow damage. Additional Final Blow damage, which is right here. Where is it? Not there, not there, not there. Ooh, Shadow Strike, Armor Piercer, right here. I'd pick up additional Final Blow damage. And with my last skill, I'll get this for a little bit of versatility with my combo enders. Or Mind's Edge, just for a little bit more consistency with my Kai damage. Or for this, just to meme around and see what it can do. And as far as my setup for my skills, I'll go Wildfire with Ruksha. Cyclone at the top with all these. Arc of Chaos if you have it. If you don't, Infinite Retribution. But I would put on Arc of Chaos simply for its extension and its range that you normally don't get. I put on Forced Retribution. 3-path is useless most of the time. You can get this skill for an opponent out of Kai, but you already have one. It's only an upstance anyways. You're rarely going to end a combo in upstance unless you are confident that you will kill your enemy, because upstance leaves you vulnerable. I'd use Windswept here, but for consistency you can put this on. Blinding Edge is the only one you have for that, so you might as well put it on. I wouldn't use it very often though. Fleeting Edge is very powerful. Put that on there. And then for this, 3-path is pretty much the only one you have. But for this, I would put on Transient Blade. It's very good for maneuvering around and applying status effects because it hits about 3 times. And then these are the skills I would use here. You can also use Whirlwind Blade if you're in a pickle, but I'd put Skyward Blade just for the Kai damage. And that is how I would design my particular abilities. My particular stance. Okay, let's go over Fleeting Edge first, right? Fleeting Edge is the easiest skill to get in the game. It's very simple. You have to get to the mastery of the Switchglaive, specifically this mission Sharp Eyes. It's very simple, very easy to get, similar to the ability from not Hanzo. I think it is actually Hanzo. Similar to the ability from the Spears and the Tonfa and everything. You do get secret skills from some of these missions. Sorry for the clicking noise. So, yeah, Sharp Eyes. You go in here. If you beat her enough, she'll give you Fleeting Edge. So, you get a wooden one as well as 3 elixirs. She has a Switchglaive and she has all the abilities from it. She will also try and combo your ass into oblivion. Keep that in mind as you fight her. But she's not exactly much of a threat, because that Switchglaive of hers is deadly, yes, but I mean, you're just deadlier. Your body is a stronger weapon. So, just keep an eye on her, because she can be a little bit threatening, and if you beat her enough, I think it took me beating her like 6 or 7 times, she'll drop Fleeting Edge eventually. That's about it. Also, you can see the devastating attack here. That's what it looks like, as I showed off before. So, next up is Whirlwind Step. You have to continue with the story until you get to the Land of Shadows, I do believe. Let me check. You have to continue with the story until you get to the Land of Shadows, where you will eventually get... it is not the Land of Shadows, my apologies. It is the Land of Soaring, yes. Where you will eventually get the Imagawa Die Hard mission. At the end of this mission, you will get the skill. Whirlwind Step. It is dropped from the boss. He actually drops a menagerie, a small menagerie of secret skills, so there you go. You gotta beat 2 mini-bosses beforehand, however, honestly, you can just kind of cut these guys down pretty easily, especially at my level. Whoop. Hey. I could probably just rush them. As you can see at my level, they're not a problem. They're no threat to me. Arc of Chaos is also pretty good for that. There is an archer up there on that tree, but we'll get to that later. You can shoot this guy right in the face, and it will usually either instantly kill him or do enough damage and he will fall. There's another use of Arc of Chaos, clearing out big sects of enemies like that. Like just a huge sector of them. You can just use Arc of Chaos, kill them all, do damage. He will summon, he will be immediately summoned, then usually use a lightning strike. He will also use these techniques with his spear, keep in mind, so do be careful. Like there's a Switchglaive technique right there. Oh, and he's gone. And he will sometimes drop Windstep. Very rare though, because he has a lot of other loot that he can drop, as well as a lot of other things he can drop. Tell my men this, do not mourn me. And the final one is Arc of Chaos. Arc of Chaos is very late in the game. Keep in mind, you can get Sharp Eyes pretty early, and you can get this one even earlier than Sharp Eyes because it's in the second zone of the entire game. Arc of Chaos, on the other hand, is really far into the game. Specifically, it's in the final zone, the First Samurai. It starts out in the mission Dawn of a Demon. However, the easiest way is to start this mission Battle at the Temple. This mission is kind of difficult to do, but I will show you how to get through it relatively quickly. So you have an NPC companion during this entire thing. You need to get to the boss at the very end. She is difficult. She is very difficult, but she's mortal, just like everyone else. So, there's some yokai myths. You actually kind of have to go through this, but you can just kind of roll through it, which I would suggest doing. hang to the left when you get over here and go down these stairs right here. Go down these stairs, maneuver around here, dodge between these two. Yes, lest she follow you in here, which she did for me. He will be teleported in here with you, so you don't gotta worry about him getting left behind. Once that happens, you will fight an umbrella and one of these weird, creepy baby things. Oh no. You'll fight a kasa. A kasa is the word for umbrella in Japanese. And one of these horrifying things, which are very difficult to kill. After that, you'll fight another large blob thing with teeth and 2 soldiers. The first soldier will spawn, and then the second one will spawn a little bit later, as you can see there. He's on a different timer, which can be pretty bad. This guy will usually use this buff, which will almost guaranteedly hit you. Those little projectiles do, I believe, do a little bit of damage as well. Makes it very difficult to maintain your Kai. It is, however, a buff, as it does increase your damage, I do believe. It lasts for a long time, even after his death. After that, you'll fight Fuku and a Kitsune. Alright, brother. Gotta put you down. This guy is very dangerous. He will summon tornadoes. That gun of his is also very powerful. He might actually just knock me out here. No, not quite. He will... Oh! The range! Yeah. I was distracted by explaining what he was doing there. Damn. Alright, let me just rip through them real quick. Because I was taking it pretty easy there, but he's defied me, therefore he dies. I was about to say... He will occasionally, not very often, but occasionally, he will pull out a Kasaragawa and attack you with it. He has an insane range. That's literally what I was about to say. He has an insane range on that Kasaragawa, so be careful. Yeah, his range is insane, as you saw there. His range is insane. Even for a New Game Plus character, this mission is still hard to do, as you can see. This is a very difficult mission, Battle at the Temple. It's one of the final missions in the entire game. I believe it's the 5th to final mission in the whole game. It's when you can consistently get Arc of Chaos. Keep that in mind. It's a very good skill, though. It's more than worth it. Just for that damage alone. Yeah, he will occasionally fire little blades of energy. Just for that damage alone, Arc of Chaos is worth it. And also, technically, it can hit 3 or more times, so... It's not going to reliably do that, but it can get around blocks pretty well, too. Okay, let's bring Hellfire down real quick. That gun of his is powerful. Avoid it at all costs. He will summon a tornado when he does that as well that will follow you around for a bit. Gun of his is very strong. He will also kind of shoot these blades. He's good at draining your Kai because he will summon a yokai realm, a dark realm around you. After you kill them, this guy will spawn. Now, I don't have the good setup for him, but you can apply your buffs right now because there's a shrine directly after where you fight this guy. You can apply your buffs right now, easy peasy lemon squeezy, and don't have to worry about it. I'll apply this as well. Last gambit. Ooh. Lead him back into it. Last gambit is very powerful. It's one of the most powerful buffs in the entire game. As you can see, Cyclone just kind of eats him alive. Last Gambit will also stop you from healing above that amount, as you can see there. Okay. Now we get into the boss proper. She is very strong. She is a beautiful maiden, but do not underestimate her for her beauty, as she is dangerous. You've probably already fought her. In fact, I know you have, if you've unlocked this mission. You go straight in here, and we'll apply the slow effect to her, and we'll apply our buffs later. She will drag it along the ground and go quite far with that ability. Just get behind her. She will jump like this occasionally. You can apply your buffs now if you want to as well. She'll shoot a projectile after she finishes that spin. She'll also use Arc of Chaos herself occasionally. Or do this. You can just kind of dodge through these if you have good timing, which I do not. There we go. She will clean herself of all status effects when she goes into rage here, so just reapply them. You can also just do this if you have a good Omeo Mage build. She can't really stop you from just hitting her repeatedly over and over again like this. Which I'm on my Omeo Mage build right now, so 1, 2. She's kind of sensitive to elements, so especially to saturation, I've found. She's kind of sensitive to saturation. So you can just keep doing this. Especially if you have unlimited Omeo magic like I do at like a 40% chance, as you saw there. And she will sometimes drop the skill you're looking for. So, you have to talk to him twice. And you will leave the mission. Alright, everybody. This is nearing the end of the video now, so please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be doing the split staff next, and then the fists. After the fist, I'll be doing the samurai skill tree. Then after the fist, I'll be doing the shinobi skill tree. Then the Omeo Mage skill tree, then the samurai skill tree, and finally to wrap the game up, I will be doing the yokai skill tree, as all of those have secret skills as well. Thank you everyone so much for coming today. I will see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.